Hey guys, tonight we're going back to a time when childbirth wasn't just risky, it was downright terrifying. Imagine standing barefoot in the corner of a cold, dirt-floored room, your fingers stained from crushed herbs and ash, while a woman screams in agony just a few feet away. You're not a doctor. You're not even considered a professional in the eyes of the law. But in that moment, every eye in the room is locked on you, the midwife. You've got no painkillers, no clean linens, just centuries of handed-down knowledge and the stubborn hope that both mother and child might live to see the morning. You're the only thing standing between life and death. And most of the time, you probably won't survive this job either. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is. I'm always curious who's falling asleep to medieval screams across the globe. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The moment you step outside your cottage, the damp morning air clings to your skin. The birds aren't even awake yet, but someone is pounding on your door. Again. It's always like this. The village midwife doesn't get to rest when the rest of the village does. A woman is in labor, her first. And word has gotten to her mother, who has sprinted barefoot through the fields to fetch you. You grab your bundle of supplies, an old linen pouch stuffed with herbs, scraps of wool, a knife that's been sharpened to the point of disintegration, and a string of amulets tied with twine. Superstition and survival all jumbled into one kit. You don't eat. There's no time. You walk quickly, feet sinking into the mud, trying to remember if this woman's mother ever mentioned her daughter's narrow hips or her sickly complexion. Those little details matter. The house is dim. That's always how it begins. It's in shadows. The fire is low, the bed is hard, and the straw smells of wet fur and dust. You nod to the husband, who is pale and utterly useless. You speak only to the women. The mother, the aunt, the neighbor women, who have gathered to help hold things down, literally. You kneel by the straw mattress and meet the eyes of the girl in labor. She's no older than 15. Her lips are cracked, her face beaded with sweat, and the fear in her eyes is enormous. She's too quiet. That's bad. You place your hand on her belly and whisper something calm. Doesn't matter what. Words help as much as magic right now. You feel the contractions. They're close. You roll up your sleeves, which are already stiff with old blood and lye soap. You ask for warm water, though not boiling, not like they do in the cities. That ruins more skin than it saves. Someone brings a chipped bowl. You inspect it out of habit. No floating filth. Good enough. Midwifery, you remind yourself, is not science. It's trust. It's memory. It's instinct. You learned from your mother, who learned from hers. You know when to cut, when to push, when to wait, and when to whisper a prayer. You know what plants to pack into the birthing bed to keep evil spirits away, and which ones to burn under the threshold. You mutter a few words under your breath as you press a poppy seed-stained cloth to the girl's lips. The pain is unbearable, but she won't scream. Not yet. You know why? If this goes wrong, if she dies, her soul must be ready. Clean, silent. That's what the priest said last week when he refused to attend a delivery. It's women's business, he said. You scoffed, but not too loudly. The room smells of sweat and something else now, blood, maybe fear. The girl starts crying out. Her legs twitch. You check. No crowning. You nod to the women to hold her shoulders, her knees. This is how it always is. You murmur that she's doing well, but you know better. Her breathing is irregular. The baby's position might be wrong. You feel it. The stomach is misshaped, slanted, swollen to one side. A breach. You can't be sure until you try. You dip your fingers into oil and go in. The mother shrieks and then bites her lip so hard it splits. You feel the foot, not the head. A breech birth. You don't panic. Not outwardly. That's lesson 1. You tell the women to press towels to her sides. You whisper for the girl to keep pushing harder, even when the pain reaches bone-splitting levels. You grip the child's tiny foot and begin the delicate, horrible task of helping it out backward. It's a slow-motion disaster. Each movement you make could kill them both. But you've done this before. You keep going. The baby is blue when it slips into your hands, and it doesn't cry. You rub it hard. You blow into its nose, then rub again. And finally, a small gasping sound. Weak but alive. You place it against the girl's chest, and she weeps openly, now not from pain, but disbelief. She made it. You made it. This time. You stay for hours after the delivery. Not because you're paid. Midwives are rarely paid in coin, just eggs or a chicken if you're lucky, but because the work isn't done. The afterbirth needs to come out. The bleeding needs to stop. You boil cloths, clean the child's limbs, check for extra fingers, open mouths. You wrap the umbilical cord around your finger and cut it just above your knuckle, then tie it with hemp string. All the while you listen to the baby's breathing. It wheezes a little, but it's not dying. Not tonight. When the girl finally sleeps, you sit back on your haunches, exhausted, your knees numb from the cold floor. Someone gives you broth. It's thin and salty, but you drink it greedily. You wash your hands outside with ash and rainwater, and as you scrub, your mind turns to the next birth. There will always be another. A woman already approached you last week, clutching her belly and asking if she should fast during the new moon. You told her yes, but not for the moon, for the rats. Back in your hut, you empty your birthing pouch onto the table. You clean the knife with vinegar. You sort through the dried plants, sage, mugwort, St. John's wort. You cut fresh twine and bundle new prayer beads. You whisper a few protective words over the pouch, not because you believe it helps, but because just maybe it does. You lie down, but sleep doesn't come. Your mind replays the foot in your hand, the blue skin, the shallow breath. You think about the girl, about whether the wound will fester, about whether the child will thrive, about whether someone somewhere will one day write down your name. But you know the truth. No one ever remembers the midwife, not unless something goes wrong. You wake up to the sound of hens scratching outside and the familiar ache in your lower back. The straw mattress did nothing to help, and you've slept no more than 2 hours. But there's no luxury in complaint. The village is already stirring. There's smoke curling out of chimneys, the sound of hooves in the distance and the slow creak of carts heading to the fields. Your body's sore, your hands raw, but your mind is already preparing for what the day might bring. Another pregnancy, another ailment, another anxious husband shoving his wife into your care. You've long stopped asking for rest. You live between births. As you step out into the muddy lane, your eyes catch a glimpse of a girl gathering herbs by the roadside. She's young, maybe 12, and when she sees you, She stops and smiles shyly. You recognize her. Her mother died in childbirth 2 winters ago. You were there helpless as the woman bled out in your lap. That was one of the nights when no one brought broth afterward. Just silence. The family moved on. Buried her quickly without a priest. But the girl still watches you like you're part witch, part saint. She thinks you're powerful. Most of the village does. But you know better. Midwives aren't just healers, they're scapegoats too. When things go wrong, you become the whispered threat. You've seen it before. A stillbirth, and suddenly you're the one accused of bad luck or secret sin. She brought a cursed wind with her, they'll say. She uses poppy in her brews, just like the old witches. Never mind the years you've saved lives with those same concoctions. Never mind the times you've stayed up for 3 days straight to keep a mother breathing. In the end, survival is luck, and luck is a dangerous currency when it runs out. Your role doesn't end with delivery. Sometimes it begins long before the first contraction. Take the woman you're walking to now, Ingrid, in her 5th month. She's older than most, almost 30, and this is her 4th pregnancy. She's lost 2 already. You approach her home with quiet steps, not wanting to disturb any spirits still lingering in the morning mist. She's sitting on a stool outside wrapping wool, and her face is pale. You kneel beside her and place a hand on her belly. It's warm, solid, but the pulse feels sluggish. Not the vibrant flutter you expect. She tells you the kicking has slowed. You nod solemnly, already guessing the possibilities. The baby may have died. Or perhaps it's just resting. There's no way to know for sure, not with the tools you've got. So you mix her a drink, crushed mint and black horehound with a slice of dried apple to help with the bitterness. She grimaces, but drinks it all. Then she asks what she always asks, will it live this time? You hesitate. You never answer directly. Instead, you reach for the bundle at your hip and pull out a small charm made of bone and thread. You press it into her hand. This will help. Sleep with it under your mattress. She nods, relieved. Not because she believes entirely, but because you've given her something, anything to hold on to. Hope is medicinal, too. As you walk back through the village, someone calls your name. It's Father Anselm, the parish priest. He walks stiffly, robes heavy with damp, but his eyes are sharp. He's never liked you. You're a reminder of the parts of life the church can't control. Birth, blood, female pain. He nods curtly, as if the effort costs him. There's talk, he says. The girl from the other night, her mother says you used poppy on her, that you invoked names outside the saints. You meet his gaze steadily. She was dying. He frowns. You know what the bishop has said about charms and herbcraft. We tolerate it, for now. But you must not stray. You nod because arguing with him would only feed the fire. But your stomach knots. One whispered accusation from the wrong person, and your house could be torched before sunrise. You've seen it happen. The healer, 2 villages over, dragged out into the field, her herb bundles set aflame, her name scratched off the parish records. They called it justice. Still, you keep walking. The work doesn't pause just because the church is watching. You make your way to the edge of the woods where you know valerian grows wild. The roots calm women who've lost children. The leaves help dull the aches of a postpartum body. As you crouch to dig, your thoughts drift back to your own mother. She used to bring you here whispering the names of plants like prayers, comfrey, angelica, lady's mantle. You'd repeat them after her, not knowing yet that you were being prepared for this life. You remember her hands thick with calluses, always warm. You remember the smell of crushed nettles and wet linen. You remember the quiet way she would sit beside a laboring woman for hours, barely speaking, just humming softly while the rest of the house paced and panicked. She died when you were 19. You took her pouch and her clients. No ceremony, no passing of the torch. Just a death, a gap, and then your name whispered in its place. Midwives don't retire. They vanish. Sometimes it's fever. Sometimes it's childbirth itself. A cruel joke of fate to be undone by the very act you've spent your life managing. You've known more than one who bled out during her own labor. No one helps the midwife. No one knows what to do without her instructions. So they watch her die. You finish digging the roots and wrap them in cloth. You tuck them into your bag alongside a dried rag soaked with rose oil and salt. Another woman is due soon, and her previous labor ended in a tearing so severe she couldn't walk for weeks. You'll use rose oil to soften the tissues. You hope it'll be enough. Back in the village, someone is waiting on your doorstep. A boy of maybe 10, eyes wide and pale with fright. "Mistress, my stepmother." "She's fallen," he says breathlessly. "There's blood. It won't stop." You don't hesitate. You grab your pouch, your rags, your smallest knife, and follow him into the dusk. The house is dim again. Always dim. A woman lies on the floor, blood pooling beneath her. Miscarriage. Late stage. She moans weakly, too far gone to speak. You move quickly, pressing cloth to the flow, searching for remaining tissue, whispering prayers to saints the church doesn't acknowledge. You chew wormwood to keep your head clear and press it to her gums, hoping it numbs her long enough for you to work. Hours pass. The bleeding slows. She lives. This time. You leave with her husband's thanks and a sack of barley. It's more than most. You carry it home on your back, exhausted, knowing you'll grind it for porridge in the morning. You still haven't slept. As you hang your herbs to dry above the fire, you wonder how long you'll be able to keep this up. You have no apprentice. The girl in the field maybe someday, but not yet. You know this life isn't endless, but until the day your hands fail you, you'll keep answering the knocks on your door. Because no one else will. The days blur together, and each one starts with a quiet dread. What will go wrong today? You never ask it out loud, but the question is always there, a shadow that clings to your every movement. The quiet days are the worst. When no one calls for you, when the village is silent, when no babies are born and no women bleed, that's when the rumors breed. Because if you're not actively saving someone, you must be cursing someone. That's how they think. Today, though, is not quiet. You're summoned by the bell. Not the church bell, no. That one rings only for men's business. This is the old bell, the one on the post at the edge of town. A rusted iron triangle that women strike when they need you, but can't send a messenger. It clangs once, then again. Your body moves before your thoughts catch up. You grab your pouch, tie your apron, and start walking. It's Anna, the brewer's wife. A proud woman with 6 children already, she swore the last one would be her final. But nature, as always, had other plans. She's laboring now too early by at least a month. and the look in her sister's eyes tells you the truth before a word is said. The birth is going badly. Inside the room is tense. The air smells of beer mash and panic. Anna is groaning low, her breath ragged. The baby isn't ready. The waters haven't broken. But the pain is real deep, unrelenting. You kneel beside her, place your palm on her belly, and feel a strange stillness. No kicking, no flutter, just tightness and heat. You ask how long the pain has been going on. Since last night, her sister says, that's too long. Too long without progress. Too long with that stillness. You ask for hot water, clean cloths, and light a small cone of dried mugwort near the hearth. The scent wafts through the room, bitter and grounding. Anna stares at the smoke like it might tell her the future. Maybe it will. You roll up your sleeves and examine her. The cervix is barely open, the pressure is immense, and her body is betraying her. A false labor, perhaps. Or the baby is twisted, stuck. You try to manipulate the position gently internally, guiding the child's form with your fingertips. Anna screams. You apologize under your breath, but you keep going. You can't stop. You whisper to her about strength, about her other children, about how she's done this before. She clutches your wrist so tightly you lose feeling in your hand, but she doesn't push you away. Hours pass. The sweat on your back dries and soaks again. Anna sobs into her pillow. Then finally, the waters break. But instead of clear fluid, it's thick, greenish-black, meconium. The baby is in distress, and suddenly everything speeds up. You tell the sister to hold her legs back, press her knees to her chest. You tell Anna to push, hard, now. The head crowns slowly, painfully, and you see the umbilical cord looped around the neck. Not once, twice. The baby is being strangled by its own lifeline. You act fast. Your knife is already warm from your hand. You slide your finger between the cord and the baby's neck, slip the blade under, and cut. Once, twice. The child spills out like a flood, wet, purple limp. No breath. You begin the ritual. You slap the soles, rub the chest, blow into the mouth, press and release the ribs, rub again, again. Come on, little one. Breathe. A cough, a cry, a wet gurgling whimper. Alive. You place the baby against Anna's chest, and for the first time in hours, she exhales. Her arms wrap around it like vines. Her lips kiss its sticky head. You clean the afterbirth cut and tie the cord again and whisper a prayer of thanks, not to a saint, but to the women who taught you. That night, you don't go home. You sleep in a chair beside her just in case. The baby wheezes a little, but its skin turns pink by morning. Anna smiles in her sleep. You leave before she wakes. The walk home is cold even though the sun is high. You pass neighbors, some of whom nod, some of whom pretend not to see you. They all know. Word travels fast. The brewer's wife almost died, they'll say. The baby wasn't breathing. And then inevitably, it was the midwife who brought them back. But for every story like this, there's another they don't say aloud. The ones where the baby doesn't cry, where the mother bleeds to death, where you wash your hands in a stream and don't speak to anyone for days. You remember each face. You've delivered hundreds of children by now, maybe more. Some you see running through the streets covered in soot and joy chasing chickens and shouting obscenities. Others, You remember as names carved into makeshift crosses. You once kept a list. Names, dates, signs. But you stopped. It hurt too much. Back in your home, you light a new candle for the altar shelf. It's just a bit of beeswax and string, but it makes you feel less alone. You hang your apron now stiff with dried blood and start boiling water. You need to sterilize your blade again. You clean the poppy cloths, steep a new batch of willow bark tea, and check your stores of fennel and comfrey. You restock the rags. You wash your hands with ash and vinegar. Your body is old before its time. Your hands are strong but stiff in the morning. Your back bends more than it used to. You're not sure how much longer you can do this, not without help. The girl in the field keeps watching you. You notice her every day. Quiet, observant. You think maybe soon you'll ask her to help you gather herbs, just to see how she handles them. There are secrets you cannot write down, things no book will ever teach, like how to turn a baby by feel alone, how to know when a woman's scream is pain or panic, how to stop bleeding when the linen runs out. These things must be seen, touched, absorbed. You drink your tea in silence. The village is quiet again. You should rest, but even as you lie down, you feel the tension in your spine, the phantom weight of a baby in your hands, the echo of a cry that wasn't guaranteed. You know the peace won't last. Someone is always close to labor. Someone always needs you. And one day when you're gone, they'll realize just how much you held back the darkness. For now, though, you sleep, lightly, with your pouch at the bedside, just in case. The frost is heavier this morning. It clings to the wooden shutters, to the rim of the old pail outside, and to your bones as you step into the cold. You pull your shawl tighter, adjusting it over your shoulders, as your fingers fumble with the leather strap of your pouch. You never leave without it. Every herb, every rag, every scrap of experience you've tucked into those creases, it's your life. It's theirs. The village is quieter than usual. Winter has begun to settle in, and most people are more concerned with patching roofs and counting food stores than keeping an eye on their pregnant daughters. But the babies don't care about seasons. They arrive when they wish, and when they do, it's always urgent. You head to Margot's home. She's due within the week, and the signs are starting to show. Her ankles are swelling. Her back is stiff. She's dreaming of water and fish, and in your world, that's more than just idle chatter. It's the old wisdom. Dreams speak. You were taught to listen. Margot is younger than most of your clients. 17, recently married. Her husband is a thatcher, broad-shouldered and kind, though mostly clueless. When you arrive, he stands up awkwardly from a stool, nods like he's doing his best not to get in the way, and disappears into the next room. You sit with her. No examinations yet. Just talk. You ask what she's feeling. She tells you about the tightness in her stomach, the dreams, the aching when she stands too long. She's scared. All first-time mothers are, but she tries to hide it behind a thin smile. You don't pry. Instead, you offer her a small bundle of lavender and tell her to hang it over the bed. Not because it's magic, though maybe it is, but because it smells like something gentler than fear. You feel her belly. The baby is well positioned, low and ready. You close your eyes and breathe in slowly, your palm still pressed to her skin, listening without ears. Something inside you, a part inherited, not taught, says this will be a fast labor. Painful, yes, but smooth if left undisturbed. You tell her to rest and not to eat meat today. Only broth and root vegetables. Keep her body calm. Prepare it. She nods, trust in her eyes. That's something you've learned to accept carefully. Trust is weight. It's heavy. Because when things go wrong, and they often do, it's that trust that breaks first. You leave her home and walk back through the village, your eyes scanning the faces of those you pass. Some nod politely. Others glance away as if looking at you might make them think of blood and death. It's always both. You wonder sometimes how they think they were born. At the far end of the village, you stop by the widow Alina's home. She's not pregnant, not even young, but she's been coughing blood again. Consumption, maybe, or something else. You offer her crushed hyssop and honey, and she thanks you with a gentle squeeze of your wrist. You linger longer than usual. There's something about the way she talks today, slow, as if already half gone. You make a mental note to visit again before the week's end. When you return to your own hut, you find a dead bird on your doorstep. Not a coincidence. A message. Not from the spirits, but from the living. Someone's angry or scared. Probably both. You pick it up gently. A blackbird. Neck twisted. You bury it in the garden behind your house, whispering the names of the grandmothers under your breath. Not because it's part of a ritual, but because you need someone to hear, even if they're long gone. This is the other part of your work, living with the suspicion. No matter how many lives you save, someone always believes you've bargained with the devil, that you know too much, that you must have paid for your knowledge with something terrible. They're not entirely wrong. There is a cost. You remember her, your cousin. She died during her first labor. You were only 14, then barely an apprentice, and your mother had been called elsewhere. No one else knew what to do. You tried everything, compresses, prayers, even a knife. She bled anyway. Screamed until her voice gave out. You were the only one in the room when she died, and no one ever spoke of her again. You dream of her sometimes. Her face pale, her lips blue. She doesn't blame you, but you still do. That's when you truly became the midwife. Not when your mother handed you the pouch. Not when you turned a breech for the first time. But when you saw death and didn't run. You sit by your hearth now, knees drawn up, sipping nettle tea. You crush dried peppermint with your fingers and breathe it in, letting the sharpness clear your head. Across the village, Margaret is probably rubbing her stomach, watching the fire, wondering when it will start. You think it'll be soon. Your body aches again. Not just the muscles, though those throb constantly, but something deeper, a weariness of the soul. You wonder how many more years you can do this. You wonder who will follow after you. You think again of the girl in the field. She's been watching you too closely for too long to be just curious. Next time you see her, you'll ask her name. Night falls early this time of year. You trim the wick of your lamp, the warm glow casting soft shadows against the wall. You grind herbs for labor, motherwort, raspberry leaf, pennyroyal. You bundle a few sprigs with string, preparing for tomorrow. You wrap the tools in linen knife thread, cloths, spoon bell. Each one a story, each one a memory. You pack them slowly, deliberately, whispering thanks to them as if they're old friends. In a way they are. They've seen more than anyone else. And unlike people, they never turn on you. Then you do something you rarely allow yourself to do. You pray. Not to the saints, not even to God, but to the women, to your mother, to her mother, to the others who came before, whose names are forgotten, but whose hands you feel guiding your own every time you press down on a belly or wrap a newborn in cloth. You ask them to be near tomorrow, to watch over Margaret, to whisper strength into her when the pain comes. You don't ask for everything to go right. You're wiser than that. You only ask that if it must go wrong, it happens while you're there, not alone, not without someone who knows what to do. Then you place the bundle by your door, ready to go, because birth doesn't wait. And neither do you. The knock comes just before dawn, not the frantic pounding of panic, but the softer, urgent rhythm of someone too polite to shout. You're already awake, of course. Midwives rarely sleep well, and this night was especially restless. You dreamed of water rising through the floor, filling the room slowly until you couldn't breathe. An old dream. You've learned not to ignore it. You open the door to find Margaret's husband, eyes wide with the fear of first-time fathers. It's time he whispers, though the urgency in his voice is loud enough. You nod and step inside to grab your pouch. You've already packed it, and thank the saints you trusted your gut last night. You throw a thicker shawl over your shoulders, it's freezing outside, and follow him across the frost-hardened village paths. The sky is still ink dark, but you can see the faintest silver curling at the horizon. A new day, maybe a new life. You say nothing as you walk, but your mind races. You run through herbs in your pouch positions to try if the baby's slow prayers for courage, tricks for breath control. It's always like this, preparation masked as calm. Inside the house, the heat hits you first. The fire's been built up high and steam curls from a pot by the hearth. Good. Warmth matters. Birth is easiest when the body isn't fighting cold. Margaret is on her knees by the bed, hands gripping the wool blankets, her breath in sharp bursts. You kneel beside her, touch her shoulder, then her forehead clammy but not too hot. You whisper her name. She groans. You check her progress and find she's further along than expected. This baby is in a hurry. You nod to her husband to step aside. He does, retreating to the corner like a frightened child. The other women arrive, an aunt, a neighbor, one of the older girls, who's always watched you with wide eyes. You give them quiet instructions. Water, cloths, something to boil. Margaret cries out again, this time with the unmistakable sound of a contraction about to break her in two. You press your hand gently on her lower back and coach her through it. Breathe. Moan if she needs to. You never tell women to be silent. Pain needs a voice. The room thickens with tension. You feel it like a storm coming through the walls. Every second stretches like taffy. You keep your voice low and steady. You murmur encouragement. You remind her that she is not alone. Then the pushing begins. It's a force of nature, raw, ancient, terrifying. Margaret's body bears down with a strength she didn't know she had. Her eyes roll back once and she screams, and her aunt almost jumps. But you don't. You've heard this before. You've heard worse. The baby crowns slowly. No cord this time. The scalp is slick and dark with fluid. You speak calmly, even as your fingers work quickly, adjusting, easing, guiding. The shoulders come. Then in one fluid movement, the baby slips free into your waiting hands. A girl. She doesn't cry at first. You rub her back gently, whispering softly, coaxing. Then a sound. A rasp, then a wail, tiny and fierce. The room exhales. You wrap the child in cloth and place her on Margot's chest. The young mother sobs, clutching her daughter like she might vanish. You guide her hands, help her shift, and begin the afterbirth process. You don't relax yet. You've learned not to. The bleeding needs to stop. The uterus needs to contract. The cord must be tied. Every moment matters. But Margot is strong, and luck for now is on your side. The bleeding slows. The cord is clean. The baby suckles weakly but surely. You smile, not wide, not foolish, but the small private smile that comes only with relief. Someone brings broth. You help Margot sip it between shallow breaths. She is dazed, exhausted, pale but alive. The child, too. You clean quietly, methodically. You burn the soiled rags in the hearth and bury the afterbirth behind the house, saying the old words under your breath to keep the spirits content. Some will scoff, but you don't take chances. As the women help Margot to sleep, you step outside and sit on the old bench near the door. The sky has turned peach and rose. Frost sparkles on the thatched roofs. You close your eyes. Then you feel it, a presence beside you. You open your eyes slowly, and there she is, the girl from the field. She doesn't speak, just stands there, arms crossed over her chest, eyes locked on yours. You nod. "Come here," you say softly. She steps forward. You reach into your pouch and pull out a scrap of clean cloth. "Hold this," you say, placing it in her hand. She obeys. You hand her the small pot of balm you use for tearing. "Smell it." She does. Next time you say you'll bring the water. She blinks. Then quietly she nods. There's no ceremony, no title, no promises. Just the start of something. You rise from the bench, stretch your back, and step inside again. The room is warm. The baby sleeps against her mother's chest. The others sit quietly, sipping broth, whispering blessings. You look at the girl once more, and then, without needing to say it aloud, you both begin to clean up. Because the midwife's day is never done. And the next birth is always closer than you think. The first time you let the girl mix herbs, she spills half the mugwort on the floor. Her hands tremble, her fingers clumsy, and she looks up at you with wide, embarrassed eyes. But you don't scold her. You simply nod, kneel beside her, and show her again how to crush the leaves with just the right pressure between your thumb and palm. How to avoid bruising them too much. It's not about punishment. It's about presence. About showing up again and again until the movements become memory. She learns quickly. You watch her gather valerian without being told, how she checks for worms on the roots, how she hangs them to dry upside down so the oils settle toward the tips. She even begins asking questions quietly at first, then more boldly. Why do we use rosemary for postpartum baths? How do you know if a tear will heal on its own? Is it true that Saint Bridget was once a midwife? You smile at that last one. Saint Bridget knew how to light fires and calm screaming women. That's close enough. You let her carry your pouch once on the way to a birth in the next village. Her back hunches slightly under the weight. It's heavier than it looks. That pouch carries not just tools, but responsibility. She feels it. You can tell. The woman in labor this time is older, well into her 30s, which makes her practically ancient in birthing years. It's her 7th child, but her face is etched with worry. The last one was stillborn. You remember the birth clearly because you were the one who carried the tiny, silent body outside and wrapped it in white linen while the mother wept. Now she grips your hand when you arrive. Not a greeting, but a plea. Don't let it happen again. You glance at your apprentice, no, not yet, but close, and tell her to prepare the water. She lights the fire, sets the basin, adds crushed bay and marjoram. The scent fills the room with something that feels close to comfort. The labor is slow. Hours pass. The baby is stubborn, tucked into a high position, refusing to drop. You try the usual tricks, gentle rocking, herbal rubs, changes in posture. Nothing. The woman's eyes flutter with fatigue. You worry about her heart. You've seen too many hearts give up mid-labor. So you do something you rarely do in front of others. You sing. It's a low hum at first, a rhythm from your childhood. Your mother sang it. Her mother before. No words, just vibration. The girl looks at you, surprised, then quiets. Even the laboring woman seems to breathe more steadily. Something shifts. Then, without warning, the baby moves. You feel it as your hand rests on the stretched belly, an unmistakable descent. The mother gasps, and her whole body convulses with the sudden need to push. You guide her murmur the old words, and with one more surge, the baby slips free. A boy. Pink. Breathing. Whole. The mother clutches him with shaking arms, and her tears soak his head. The room fills with quiet weeping, hers, yours, even the girl's, though she turns her face away. You sit back suddenly aware of the ache in your spine, the stiffness in your knees. The girl fetches cloth without being asked. She wipes the floor, burns, the soiled rags, returns with broth. You nod to her proud. She did well, but the birth isn't over. It never ends cleanly. That night, the father appears with coin 3 whole silver pieces, an unheard of sum. You shake your head. Save it for the baby's winter clothes, you say. He insists. You take only 1. The girl asks later why you refused more. You think for a long time before answering. Because sometimes when you take too much, they stop trusting you. And trust is worth more than silver. She nods, but you know she doesn't understand yet. She will. One day, you walk back under the stars. The air is sharp with cold, and your breath leaves long trails behind you. The girl keeps pace beside you, silent for the first part of the walk. Then she asks, how do you carry it, the ones you couldn't save? You look at her small face lit only by moonlight, and answer honestly. You don't. You just carry them. The silence stretches between you like a thread. Not awkward, not heavy, just true. At home, you collapse into the chair by the fire. Your bones feel brittle, but your heart is strangely light. The girl tucks away the dried herbs, folds the cloths, and sits at your feet. She leans against your knee like a child, with a mother she doesn't want to admit she's chosen. You don't move away. In your mind, you return to your own first birth. You were 16. The baby was breech. The woman screamed until her voice broke. Your hands shook. Your mother whispered into your ear. Let the fear move through you, but don't let it settle. You haven't forgotten that. You say it now aloud for the girl beside you. She nods. Later, as she curls up on the mat in the corner of the hut, wrapped in an old wool blanket, you whisper to the shadows. Not prayers. Not quite. Just the names of the women you've helped. The ones who lived. The ones who didn't. You say each one with the reverence of a psalm, because you remember them all. And if you don't, no one will. The girl stirs, mutters something in her sleep. You listen, smile faintly, and close your eyes. The fire crackles low. Your pouch rests beside the hearth, and tomorrow waits with another knock, another scream, another life. But for now, there is this small moment of peace, and that is enough. Spring creeps in like a shy child, timid and sudden. One day the wind carries frost and silence, and the next, it smells of damp soil, crushed grass, and the soft hum of growth. The ground thaws, lambs are born, and women start counting the weeks on their fingers again, calculating due dates against the blooming of elderflowers or the first cry of swifts overhead. You feel it in your bones, too less ache in your joints, fewer chills in your fingers. But with spring comes an overwhelming rush. Winters may be deadly, but spring is the true flood season for midwives. The babies conceived in the dark, cold months now demand to enter the world all at once. You barely have time to rest between calls. The girl, your apprentice now, by silent agreement, wakes before you most days. You find her already steeping herbs, boiling cloths, grinding roots in the stone mortar you inherited from your mother. You say nothing of pride, but you watch her with care. Her hands are more certain now, her voice steadier. She no longer flinches at blood or tears. This week alone, you've delivered 4 babies. One was too small to survive, barely bigger than a kitten, its chest rising once, twice, and then never again. You wrapped it yourself. You whispered the blessing. The mother didn't speak for hours afterward, just rocked in silence, holding nothing. But the other 3 healthy, loud. One gripped your finger so tightly after birth it made your apprentice gasp. Today, you're called to a house you've never entered. A family newly arrived from the outer woodlands, strangers to the village, wary and quiet. You feel their eyes follow you as you cross their threshold. You remove your shoes out of respect and step into the hushed interior where a woman, young, heavily pregnant, already moaning, lies on a worn mat beside the fire. Her name is Ilsa. Her husband never speaks. The others in the house, mother, sister, cousins, maybe hover in the corners, tight-lipped and wide-eyed. There's something unspoken here. You feel it like a draft. You kneel, speak to Ilsa gently. Ask how long. Ask how often. She doesn't answer in words, but grits her teeth and grabs your wrist as another contraction tears through her. Her belly is high, the baby slow to descend. The labor will be long. Your apprentice sets to work beside you, laying out cloths, warming the small iron knife, placing the pot near the fire. You give her a single glance and she knows what to do. That silent language is a gift you didn't expect to love so much. The labor drags deep into the evening. Ilsa sweats through her shift claws. The mat cries out in an unfamiliar dialect. You whisper soothing nonsense in return. Tone is more important than meaning. The baby finally shifts downward slowly, reluctantly, and then the real work begins. You guide her body through the worst of it. She tears, Not badly, but enough. You press balm into the raw skin stitch carefully with thread boiled in wine. She winces, but her grip on your apprentice's hand never loosens. And the child, a girl, strong lungs already trying to wail before she's halfway out. You clean her quickly, check for abnormalities, count fingers, and lay her on her mother's chest. That's when the questions begin. The grandmother steps forward, her eyes narrow. "What did you use?" she asks. You show her the balm, the linen, the oil. She watches closely. "You didn't say the blessing," she murmurs. You pause. "Not the one you know," you reply, "but one all the same." She nods slowly. "You've passed. This time." Afterwards, they feed you from a bowl of thick stew heavy with barley and roots. You accept it gratefully. They press a single silver coin into your palm and a piece of dark bread for your apprentice. The girl beams. On the walk home, she chatters about the baby's tiny nails, how fast the blood dried, how brave Ilsa was. You listen, your mouth curled in a quiet smile. Her enthusiasm reminds you of yourself once. Then suddenly she asks, "Did you really not say the blessing?" You look at her, smile fading. "I said the blessing that mattered," you say. "With my hands." She frowns, processing that, but she doesn't argue. Back in the hut, you both collapse by the fire. The candlelight flickers on your weathered tools, now scrubbed and drying. You stare into the flames, exhausted. The girl sits cross-legged beside you, sorting dried elderflower into jars. You tell her a story, then not one from a recent birth, but one from long ago, before her time, before even yours. There was a midwife who delivered a baby during a thunderstorm. You begin your voice slow and even. The lightning struck the tree outside, split it in two. The mother screamed the moment it hit. The child came into the world with the sound of thunder. They said he would grow into a prophet. He became a fisherman. The girl laughs, a warm, round sound. So, not every birth has a meaning. They all have meaning, you say, but not all have prophecy. She nods again, more solemn this time. You lean back, stretching your aching knees. You close your eyes for just a moment and hear, as if far off, the sound of hooves on the road. Someone's coming. Another call. The girl hears it too. She's already on her feet, wrapping her cloak, pulling on her boots. You open your eyes to see her standing in the doorway, the pouch already slung over her shoulder. She looks at you. Coming. You rise slowly and smile. Always. And together you step into the night. The rider is young, a boy no older than 15, and covered in dust. His face is streaked with sweat and fear as he pulls the reins to a halt in front of you and your apprentice. The horse is barely standing, legs trembling, foam crusting at the bit. The boy's voice cracks as he delivers the message. "My sister's dying. Please, come quick." You don't hesitate. You climb onto the back of the cart he's pulled behind the horse. Your apprentice grabs the pouch and scrambles after you. There's no time for questions. The urgency in his voice says more than any details could. The journey is rough. The road is more a suggestion than a path winding through thickets and splintered tree roots. You cling to the wooden sides of the cart as it rattles and jerks. Your apprentice stays still beside you, her eyes wide, knuckles white around the handle of the pouch. The boy's home is a stone cottage half finished, sitting like a skeleton against the trees. Inside, the air is thick and hot. A girl lies on a cot, her body drenched in sweat, her stomach grossly swollen. She's far too young, maybe 13. Her eyes flicker barely open. There's blood on the straw beneath her. A lot of it. You kneel beside her, press 2 fingers to her wrist. Weak pulse. She's burning up skin, fevered lips, cracked. She's been in labor 2 long days, maybe. You look around. The father stands frozen in the corner, eyes hollow. A woman, maybe an aunt, washes cloths in a bowl stained red. You ask how long it's been since the last contraction. Not since last night, the woman mutters. We thought maybe she'd rest. Rest. You swallow the bitterness rising in your throat. This isn't rest. This is danger. You check the position of the baby. High. No movement. You press a hand gently against the girl's belly. Too still. Your breath catches. Stillbirth. But she's not out of danger. The body hasn't expelled the child. Her womb is trying to hold what it can no longer keep. You ask for wine, not to drink, to clean your tools. Your apprentice lays out the cloths without being asked. She watches your every move, hands poised to act. You reach inside gently, carefully, and feel the limp shape of the infant. Twisted, cold. You whisper to the girl, even though she's barely conscious. You tell her it's going to hurt, but she's not alone. You slide your hand deeper, hook a finger behind the baby's neck, and begin the agonizing process of removing it piece by piece. You've done this before. It never gets easier. Your apprentice doesn't look away. Not once. She hands you the linen when you need it, keeps the blood from spreading too far, wipes your forehead, hums softly as your mother once did. When it's over, you cradle the still child, tiny gray, perfect, and lay it in a basin away from the girl's sight. You stitch the torn flesh. You press warm compresses on her stomach. You whisper over her until her breathing steadies, until her skin cools slightly, until the bleeding slows. She lives. You stay the night. You sleep in shifts, your apprentice curled near the hearth, while you press a hand to the girl's wrist, every hour counting heartbeats. In the early light, the girl opens her eyes. Just a little. You smile, squeeze her fingers, and whisper, "You're still here." She blinks once in reply. The father presses a pouch of coin into your hand. You glance inside, 2 silver, some copper. You hand half back. "Give it to her," you say, motioning toward the girl, "for when she needs to leave this place." He doesn't protest. The road home is quieter. Your apprentice walks beside you, her face pale but focused. When you stop to rest by a stream, she sits on a rock and looks down at her hands. "They let her suffer too long," she says. You nod. "They didn't know what to do, but why didn't they send for us sooner?" You say nothing for a moment. Then, sometimes people think they can pray the pain away, or wait for a miracle. But it wasn't a miracle she needed. It was help she had you, you say softly. The apprentice blinks hard and turns her face away. That night, back at the hut, you prepare balm with your own hands, yarrow, honey, lavender. You label it with a scrap of cloth and place it gently in the pouch. It's for the girl. A healing gift should she ever find the strength to bear again. Your apprentice lays out the tools for cleaning without being told. She washes them in silence, her hands stained red to the wrists. You hand her a cloth and she scrubs until her fingers cramp. When she's done, she sits beside you by the fire. "Does it always feel like this?" she whispers. "Like what? Like you saved someone but lost something too." You exhale. "Yes." She nods. No more questions. The fire crackles low. Outside, the wind rustles the first new leaves of spring. Inside, your pouch rests on the table, emptied, cleaned, repacked. And beside you sits a girl who's already seen more than most women, twice her age. You watch the shadows dance across her face, and silently in your heart, you name her successor. 3 weeks pass, and with them come 8 new births. Your body is exhausted. Your hands ache with an old stiffness you can no longer ignore, and sleep is something you steal in odd corners of the day between boiling cloths and stitching tears. But the work does not stop, and neither do you. You know no other way to be. The girl, your apprentice, though she now walks and works with the surety of a midwife, has begun taking the lead. She speaks to the mothers, massages their backs, checks the position of babies with careful hands. You watch her closely, offering small corrections. Her instincts are growing sharper, her presence more grounded. You see the shift in the way women look at her now. They no longer ask if she's too young. They see what you see. Today you travel to the hills outside the village, to a cottage nestled among crumbling stone walls and fields scattered with sheep. The woman in labor is called Bea. She's a widow with 3 children already, and this child is the result of a visiting merchant who vanished long before the snows set in. She holds her head high despite the whispers. You admire her. The walk takes nearly 2 hours. By the time you arrive, her contractions are strong and close. She greets you with a faint smile and a face pale with pain. Your apprentice begins preparing the space, laying down cloth, lighting the hearth, arranging the birth stool just so. You take Bea's hand, feel the pulse of her fear. She's done this before, but every labor is a crossing into the unknown. The birth is long, but not difficult. No complications, no cords, no tearing. A boy strong and screaming from the first moment. You wrap him and hand him to her, and Bea cradles him with the quiet reverence of a woman who has learned how fleeting life can be. Your apprentice handles the afterbirth, the stitching, the washing, all with calm and care. You don't interfere. You only watch. Afterward, Bea insists on feeding you. Flatbread and curds and a thick root soup that warms your belly. She places her hand over yours and whispers, "You saved me. Again." And you know what she means. Not just this birth, the others. The silent acts of tending, of not judging, of showing up. As you walk home, the sun dips low behind the trees, casting long shadows across the path. Your apprentice hums softly one of the old lullabies. You let the sound settle around you like a shawl. Then halfway home, she stops suddenly. "Can I ask something?" You nod. "Do you ever dream about the ones who died?" You pause. "Yes, often." She looks down. "I still see her. The girl. The one from the forest. Sometimes I hear her cry, and then nothing." You take her hand, squeeze it gently. "You'll always carry them. Some fade, others stay sharp. But they all walk with you." She's quiet for a long time. Then, do they ever forgive you? You look at the sky where dusk is spreading like ink in water. They don't need to. It's not our fault when they go, we only hold the door. She breathes deeply, and you both continue walking. Back in the hut, you sit together in the firelight. She stitches a torn wrap while you mix a new poultice for mastitis. The quiet is companionable. Outside, the air is thick with the scent of rain. Then she says softly, "I want to stay." You glance up, "Stay. You already live here." "No, I mean, after. I want this. All of it." Your throat tightens, not with sorrow, with the ache of something close to joy. "You already have it," you say. She smiles, a slow, careful thing, and it is the most beautiful moment of your week. The next morning brings a new kind of task. A knock at the door, a quiet one, hesitant. A man stands outside, clutching his hat. His wife died in childbirth years ago. Now his eldest daughter, 16, is pregnant. He doesn't know who the father is. Maybe one of the field hands. Maybe someone passing through. He says this with shame and fear, and the unmistakable hope that you can somehow erase it all. You don't speak. You simply tell him to bring her to you. When the girl arrives, she's shaking. Not from pain yet, but from terror. She doesn't want this baby. She says it plainly. She doesn't cry. You give her tea, pennyroyal mugwort, a pinch of wormwood. Your apprentice raises her eyes, surprised. You rarely use that combination unless... But you don't say the word aloud. You never do. The girl curls up in the corner and you watch over her. Hours pass. She cramps. She bleeds. She does not scream. Your apprentice sits beside her, offering water-cool cloths a hand to grip. When it's over, the girl sleeps, and you sit in silence listening to the fire crackle. Later, your apprentice asks, "Will she be okay?" You say, "In time." Did we do the right thing? You answer, "We did what was needed." You don't explain further. She doesn't press. This too is part of the work. The next day, you help a noble's maid deliver twins in secret. 2 days after, you patch up a torn womb and save a mother by sheer will and a stitch you'd never dared try before. And by week's end, your apprentice ties her first umbilical cord alone. You watch her with quiet awe. She doesn't tremble. She doesn't ask for permission. She simply does. And in that moment, you understand what all the years have been for. Not just the births, but her. You don't remember the last time you had an entire day without a knock at the door. But today, as the rain falls soft and steady, there is silence. No laboring women, no weeping husbands, just the whisper of wind through the cracks in your shutters and the rhythmic drip of water off the eaves. You should sleep, rest your hands, sharpen your tools, but your mind won't still. So you teach. You take out the cloth scraps, the old bones, the dried herbs from last season, and spread them across the table. Your apprentice sits opposite you, her eyes bright, her sleeves rolled up, waiting. "Show me again." You say how you check for breach. She doesn't hesitate. She reaches for the small wooden doll you carved long ago and presses her hands over its rounded belly, mimicking the position of a baby inside the womb. She closes her eyes. Her fingers move with certainty. She describes what she feels. You correct her only slightly. A small shift in direction, a gentler pressure. She adjusts without protest. Then you test her on herbs. red raspberry leaf for strengthening the womb before labor. Angelica to help expel the afterbirth. Pennyroyal, she hesitates. Then for bringing on bleeding when needed. You nod and the silence between you deepens. Not uncomfortable, just full. You hand her a cloth and ask her to demonstrate a perineal wrap. She folds and layers with practiced ease. The rhythm of learning is soothing. It reminds you that even in a world where death waits just outside the door, life keeps teaching. Later, you both walk to the woods to gather more mugwort and nettle. The path is slick with rain, and the trees drip silver. Your apprentice keeps pace, her basket bouncing against her hip. She asks about your mother. You haven't spoken of her in years. She had hands like stone, you say, rough square. But when she delivered babies, she touched them like they were glass. Was she gentle only with newborns? Your apprentice laughs. You smile at the sound. She used to say, you continue, don't try to make it easy, just make it through. You reach the clearing where the herbs grow in wild, tangled clumps. You kneel together, wet earth soaking your skirts, and work side by side in silence. The nettle stings as always, but you've learned to move around it. As you fill the baskets, your apprentice asks, how did you know you were ready to be a midwife? She nods. You pause. I didn't. I just stopped being afraid of getting it wrong. You both carry your baskets home as the light begins to dim. The village is quiet under the gray sky. The smell of hearth smoke drifts on the air, and you wonder how many women are sitting by those fires, hands pressed to growing bellies, hoping they'll make it to the next moon. That night, a woman knocks at your door. Not in labor, just anxious. Her name is Elka. She's in her second month. Her first pregnancy ended in miscarriage, and now every cramp sends her into panic. She sits at your table, wringing her hands, eyes darting from the herb shelf to your apprentice. You brew her a tea nettle, red clover, a touch of ginger for nausea. You press her wrist lightly. Her pulse is steady. You ask about bleeding. None. About pain. Only in her lower back. You place your hands on her belly gently. It's too early to feel anything, but you sense no wrongness. You look her in the eyes and say, your body remembers, but so does your fear. Don't mistake one for the other. She nods, tears in her eyes. Your apprentice offers her a charm, a small linen square tied with lavender and rosemary. For sleeping, she says. Elka takes it with trembling hands. After she leaves, you sit beside the fire. Your apprentice says, you didn't give her a real cure. She didn't need one, you reply. She needed peace. You both go quiet again. The fire pops, casting orange shadows on the walls. Then your apprentice asks, do you ever wish you'd done something else, you think? You think about your life before midwifery. You think about what else you might have become, a wife, a mother, a healer, without blood on her hands. No, you say. Even after all the ones you lost, especially because of them. She stares into the fire. You look at her and your heart aches with how much she wants to understand, how much she already does. You don't just deliver babies, you say quietly. You deliver mothers. You bring them through one of the most terrifying moments of their lives. Sometimes you can't save them. But when you can, it's holy. The room stills. The air seems to thrum with truth. You lean back and close your eyes. She doesn't speak again. But later, as you drift to sleep, you hear her whisper something. Not to you, not to anyone in the room. Just a soft, reverent prayer to the women who came before. You sleep with a faint smile on your lips. Because you know now when your time comes to stop, someone will keep the fire burning. The summer heat rolls in like a heavy blanket, thick with the scent of sweat earth and the constant churn of human bodies trying to survive. The air itself feels swollen. Flies gather around every surface. Even the herbs wilt in their baskets if you don't hang them fast enough. You've always hated summer births too hot, too wet, too many infections, too much blood that never quite smells clean once it mingles with heat. And today it's worse than usual. A messenger arrives at first light, panting, clothes soaked through. A woman in the neighboring village has been in labor for over 2 days. She's delirious now. No one knows what else to do. The local herb woman gave up hours ago. You go immediately. Your apprentice doesn't ask permission anymore. She simply grabs the pouch, slings it over her shoulder, and walks beside you. The road is long and rough. You pass shriveled crops, cattle sunken with thirst, children too tired to run. The air buzzes with flies and dread. When you arrive at the woman's house, the heat inside is unbearable. The shutters are closed to keep out the light, but all that's done is trap the rot. The woman is on a straw mattress soaked with sweat and something worse. Her skin is flushed, eyes glassy. Her lips move, but no sound comes out. You check her pulse, fast and thready. Fever. Her belly is tight, too tight. You touch it gently and feel something that freezes your blood. The baby is dead inside her. You know it before you say it. Your apprentice sees your face and goes still. You sit back, hands on your knees, and prepare for the worst. There is only one goal now: save the mother. The child is already lost. But it's not so simple. The baby's body won't come on its own. It's wedged inside her, rigid with death. You give her wine to dull what little pain you can. You send the other women out of the room. You remove your outer robe and roll up your sleeves. Then slowly you reach inside. It's the worst kind of birth. The kind no one teaches you. You have to maneuver the baby's limbs, twisted and locked piece by piece. Your apprentice hands you the tools as you ask knife cloth oil. You murmur soft nonsense as you work not for the woman, but for yourself. A rhythm to hold you steady. She moans. Her body twitches. You press on. Finally, after hours, the child slips free. It's silent, gray, its neck bent at an unnatural angle. You do not cry. You do not scream. You simply lay it in a bowl and cover it with a cloth. You press warm compresses to the mother's abdomen. You give her bark tea and whisper blessings. You stitch her tears. You rinse her skin. And slowly, slowly, her breathing begins to deepen. The fever remains, but she lives. When the family re-enters the room, you give them no false comfort. You tell them the truth. The baby is gone. The mother might recover if she rests, if she drinks, if they tend to her. You do not promise. You bury the child behind the house yourself. You mark the grave with a sprig of mint and a single stone. On the way home, you and your apprentice walk in silence. Not because there's nothing to say, but because you both understand that anything said now would only echo. That night, the girl speaks first. "I wanted to scream," she says. "When I saw it, I wanted to cry. You didn't. I didn't know I could hold that in." You did what was needed. She stares at the fire for a long time. Then she says, "I think I understand now. Why no one else wants this life." You look at her carefully. "Do you?" She doesn't answer immediately. Then she nods. "Yes, I want it." You exhale slowly, not in relief, but in quiet awe. She's chosen it fully. Not for the stories, not for the glory, for the truth, for the blood, for the pain, for the sacred mess of it all. A few days later, a woman comes to your hut with a swollen belly and a sheepish look. She's unmarried. You say nothing. You simply prepare the table. As you press your fingers to her skin, your apprentice lays out the herbs and cloths beside you. She hums that same low tune your mother once did. You realize you haven't touched your own tools in an hour. She's done everything, and well. When the baby comes strong, red, screaming, it is she who catches it. She who wraps it. She who ties the cord and hands the child to its mother. You watch from the corner, a silent witness to the passing of something sacred. That night, you unwrap your oldest pouch, the one your mother used with the faded stitching and torn edges. You run your fingers across its surface and remember how it once seemed too big for your hands. Now it seems too small for hers. You hold it for a moment longer, then place it gently in her lap. She doesn't speak. She just holds it. And the fire burns quietly between you both, casting long shadows of two midwives into the darkness. The mornings begin to carry a new kind of quiet now. Not the tense silence of grief or waiting, but something gentler. A rhythm. You wake before dawn not with dread, but with a practiced readiness. The air is still warm from summer, but the breeze has a subtle bite that hints at the coming shift. Autumn is near, and with it another season of births. Your apprentice, no, not just apprentice anymore, sleeps in the other corner of the hut, wrapped in wool, one arm, slung over her chest, like she's guarding something precious, even in her dreams. You've noticed she murmurs names in her sleep. Names of herbs, of women, of babies. She remembers them all, just like you. You start the morning with dried apple slices and bitter tea. She joins you without words, carrying the pouch now with casual ease, though you know. She still checks the stitching every night. She treats it like a relic. She's not wrong. Today you're expected at a small farmhouse outside the northern fields. A woman there is giving birth to her second child. Her first died during delivery before she moved to this village before she knew who to call. She's scared. You understand. You always do. When you arrive, the house is clean and silent. The floor has been swept and cloths have been laid across the bed. A bowl of warm water waits near the hearth. You smile someone's prepared this with care. The woman lies still, her hands resting on her belly. She looks young and old at once. You greet her gently. Your student takes her hand, begins the quiet conversation that always comes before the pain. How far apart are the contractions? Where does it hurt? When did it begin? Her tone is soft, sure. You don't need to interrupt. You don't need to lead. You simply observe. When the time comes, the woman begins to panic. She thrashes, her breathing shallow and quick eyes wild with remembered terror. She shouts that she can't do it, that she won't survive, that she's not meant to bring life into the world. Your student acts. She moves fast, placing one hand on the woman's chest, the other on her forehead. She speaks not with magic, not with grand words, but with truth. She tells her, "You are not alone. You are not cursed. You are strong enough because we are here." And then the pushing begins. It's long, messy. The woman tears and you help with the stitching while your student handles the baby, a girl wailing and squirming. She cleans her wraps, her places, her skin to skin on her mother's chest. The room stills, and the mother who just moments ago seemed to unravel completely sinks into the bed with a deep, shuddering breath. She lived. The baby lived. That's everything. You leave the house with gifts, a loaf of rye bread, a jar of honey, and a hand-woven scarf you tuck away like a treasure. You walk slowly through the tall grass back toward the village. Your student hums. You say nothing until halfway home. She wouldn't have made it without you. She glances sideways. I didn't do it alone. But you didn't wait for me. She stops walking. Her eyes widen, uncertain. That's not a rebuke, you say. It's a blessing. She smiles then, small but unmistakable. That night you build the fire high and lay out your oldest books, not ones of spells or charms, but your journal. You haven't opened it in years. In it you've recorded names, herbs, weather omens, births, deaths. It's your map of a life lived entirely in the margins between joy and sorrow. You pass it across the table to her. She hesitates. You're not done. Are you? No, you say. But I won't always be able to write it. Someone has to. She opens it carefully, as if the pages might dissolve. She reads in silence. You watch the firelight play across her face. She doesn't know that this is your greatest offering, not the pouch, not the tools, but the memory, the record, the truth of what you've done and what it cost. And now it's hers. That night, you dream of your mother again. She stands in a dark room holding your hand. She doesn't speak, but her presence is warm. Behind her is a long corridor, lit by candles flickering with every breath. You hear faint cries in the distance, birth cries, death cries. They echo the same. When you wake, your student is already up. She's sweeping the floor, humming the birthing song you once taught her. Outside, a bell rings in the village square, not the emergency bell, but the gathering one. You head out together. A new mother is being blessed in the chapel. You stand at the back unseen, while the priest lifts the child and chants the ritual words. He blesses the child's soul, speaks of the Lord's protection, sprinkles water. The villagers murmur prayers. But no one mentions you. No one names you. That's how it's always been. The mothers will remember. The children won't. And you'll fade from stories as all midwives do. But you feel no bitterness, because she will remember, and she will not fade. Harvest season arrives with gold in its breath. Fields shimmer with wheat, carts groan under the weight of squash and apples, and the whole village feels full and satisfied for the first time in months. Bellies round with food, but also with babies. It's always this way. Autumn is a second spring of birth, the final rush before winter closes its grip. And you're busier than ever. You and your student, your midwife now, in every way that matters, have taken turns dividing the village between you. There's simply too much for one set of hands. You still walk together when you can still share herbs and tips and quiet smiles in the evenings. But the births, they're hers now as much as they're yours. Today you're called to attend a labor already in progress, a third child for a woman named Lena, who insists she doesn't need help, but whose husband sent a boy running for you anyway. When you arrive, she's pacing the dirt floor, swearing under her breath. Between contractions, her sleeves rolled to her elbows and sweat pouring down her back. You smile. She grunts. It's coming too fast. You check her and agree. The baby is almost there, already pressing hard. You nod and ask her to squat knees wide and brace against the low bench. The push is instinctive, powerful. Within moments, the head crowns. A girl, small but healthy. She lets out a perfect little scream before you've even cleaned the mucus from her mouth. You place her against Lena's chest, then wash your hands slowly in the basin, letting the warm water carry away the blood and tension. Afterwards, Lena insists you stay for stew and you don't argue. You eat sitting on the floor while she nurses her child, both of you quiet and content. She asks you what it's like to teach another midwife. You think for a moment and say, "It's like placing your hands in someone else's body and knowing they'll hold what you did." She nods. She understands more than most. When you return to your hut, your midwife is waiting. She's standing by the fire with a furrowed brow. "There's someone in the village," she says. "She's hiding from her husband. She says he beat her last time. Wants the child born in secret." You feel your jaw clench. You say, "Where she's in the woods, in the old shepherd's lean-to." You pack the pouch immediately. You don't ask questions. Some women must give birth hidden from the very world that should have sheltered them. You've seen this before. You've done this before. The woman is there, hollow-eyed breath hitching with each pain. Her hair is matted, and she clutches a thin blanket around her body. Your midwife moves first, offering water, steadying her on a bed of straw. You kneel beside her and take her hands. You don't ask about the husband. You don't ask why she fled. You say only this: "You're safe now." The labor is long, painful. She's malnourished, dehydrated, terrified. Her body fights itself at every stage, resisting the pain, the pressure. You whisper constantly. You place warm stones on her back. You brew a broth of nettle and dandelion, adding a pinch of salt to replenish her strength. It takes all night. But in the dark before dawn, a boy is born. He's quiet at first. Too quiet. Your midwife rubs his chest, flicks his feet, wraps him tight. You bend low, place your mouth over his, breathe gently. Again. Then a sound. A single wet cough. A cry. The mother collapses into sobs, clutching him like a miracle. You clean her gently, stitch her with careful hands, wrap her in warmth. When the sun rises, you walk her back to your hut where she can heal. You say nothing to the village. Not yet. A few days later, the husband comes. He's angry, puffed up with threats. You don't let him in. Your midwife stands beside you, arms crossed. You speak calmly. She is under our care. If you lay a hand on her again, we'll call the bailiff. And if the bailiff doesn't act, we will. He leaves with curses. You breathe easier. That night you sit by the fire in silence. Your midwife leans her head on your shoulder. You whisper, "I'm proud of you." She doesn't reply, but you feel the smile against your arm. Later you take out the knife. Not your birth knife, your grandmother's. The old one blackened by fire and age, You sharpen it with care and wrap it in a new cloth. You place it in her hands. She holds it like something sacred. "This is yours now," you say. She breathes deeply. "Thank you," she says, and that's all. Because the moment has already said everything. She will carry the pouch, the knife, the names, the stories. She will walk into homes with nothing but her hands and her courage, and she will bring life into a world that often forgets how to welcome it. And you'll still walk, still help, still hold babies and mothers, but soon you'll step back. Soon you'll sleep through a night without being woken, and someone else will rise with steady hands and ancient songs humming on her lips. The leaves begin to fall in earnest, dry and crisp beneath your feet as you make your rounds. The air carries the scent of wood smoke and fermented apples, and the sun sinks earlier with each passing day. You feel it in your joints, in the long quiet between births, a slowing, a change, and still you walk. You visit the women you've helped, some cradling new babies, some still healing from tears, from fear, from grief. You sit beside them, press your fingers to their bellies, check for bleeding infections, milk flow. You bring bundles of herbs wrapped in linen comfrey for swelling calendula, for cracked skin fennel, for nursing. They welcome you with warm bread, with stories of their newborn's strange dreams and first smiles. You nod and listen, and sometimes, just for a breath, you allow yourself to feel what they feel, that it was worth it. Your midwife, your girl, though she's not a girl anymore, takes more and more of the work now. She goes to the hard births, the quiet ones, the secret ones. You stay home to prepare the oils, to bless the cloths, to boil the wine. You're not idle, but you're no longer the one standing in the blood. You feel that shift most clearly on the day she doesn't return until after dark. You've left the lamp lit in the window, a bowl of broth waiting by the hearth. She enters covered in blood to her elbows, her eyes wide but steady. She almost bled out, she says quietly, without being asked. You rise and take her hands, guide her to the basin. She doesn't resist. You pour warm water over her wrists, over her knuckles, let the steam rise around her. She lived, you ask. She lived. And the baby, she didn't. The silence that follows isn't filled with platitudes. You simply wash the blood away. Later, you sit across from her at the fire, each holding a cup of tea. She stares into the flames. I thought she was gone. I did everything I knew. I said the prayer. I used the pressure cloths. And then she opened her eyes again. You wait, I didn't save the child, she whispers. I feel like I failed. You lean forward and speak with a calm that's taken you decades to learn. Midwives don't bring miracles. We walk through the fire and try not to lose our hands. Sometimes we make it out with both mother and child. Sometimes we carry only one. That's not failure. That's survival. She breathes slow and deep. You're ready, you say, not because she succeeded, but because she knows the cost. The days shorten. You sleep more. You eat better. You find your fingers tremble when you lift your knife to trim herbs, and you pretend not to notice. But your midwife notices. One afternoon, she brings home the herb baskets herself. You need to rest, she says. You almost protest. Then don't. Instead, you let her fill the jars, arrange the bundles, grind the roots. She even sweeps the floor and warms your bathstone. You sit in the steam, letting the weight of years lift from your shoulders for just a moment. That evening, the two of you are called to a birth together. The woman is a merchant's wife newly arrived to the village and nervous in the way women often are when they're far from their mothers and sisters. You take her hands. Your midwife kneels and checks the baby's position. Her hands move with surety. She nods once, gives a few soft instructions, and begins. You stay by the woman's head, brushing the hair from her eyes, whispering calm. Your midwife handles the rest. She catches the baby. She wraps it. She coaxes the afterbirth gently free. She stitches. She smiles. You don't touch a thing. Afterward, she turns to you and says, "You didn't even put on your gloves." And you realize you didn't have to. The next morning she brews tea while you sit by the window wrapped in a blanket, watching the last of the leaves drift down. She brings the cup to you and asks, "Will you teach me the fever salve again? I forgot the ratio of marigold to rosemary." You smile. You didn't forget. You want to hear me say it. She grins, caught. And you tell her anyway. Because repetition is a kind of inheritance. Because storytelling is the only way we stay alive after we're gone. That night before you sleep, you run your fingers over the old pouch one last time. The leather is cracked, the thread worn thin, but it still holds. You press it to your lips and whisper thanks, not just to the pouch, but to the hands that passed it to you, to the ones who shaped you, to the ones who died so others could live. You place it gently on the shelf and leave it there. She has her own now, and it is full. The first frost arrives like a breath held too long, sudden, sharp, and inevitable. You feel it in your bones the moment you wake. Outside, the world is pale with ice. The grass crunches underfoot. The air bites at your fingers. You wrap your shawl tight around your shoulders and pause on the threshold of your home, watching the village exhale smoke from every chimney. Winter is here. And for the first time in decades, you won't be walking through it alone. Your midwife, your successor, has already left the hut. She moves before dawn now, just as you once did, pouch slung over her shoulder, hair tied back with the same leather string you used in your youth. You watch her silhouette vanish down the path toward the river bend, where a woman waits in labor. She didn't ask if you wanted to go, she knew. This birth is hers. You sit by the fire and begin your morning rituals. Grinding ginger root, sorting dried marjoram, heating water for tea. The slowness is strange. You feel both restless and deeply calm. You've spent so many years chasing screams, catching lives, stitching bodies back together with trembling fingers and whispered prayers. And now, all at once, the silence feels like completion. When she returns, hours later, there's snow on her shoulders and blood on her apron. She glows with that soft, hard-earned light that follows a birth that nearly went wrong but didn't. She sets down her tools, wipes her face, and collapses beside you, letting her head rest on your lap. "Tell me about your first birth," she murmurs. You stroke her hair and close your eyes. The mother was already gone when I arrived. The baby was stuck silent, stuck sideways. My mother guided my hands. She told me where to press, where to push. I didn't know what I was doing, but she did. We got him out. He cried. The room broke open like spring. She listens, breath steady. "Do you still see him?" she asks. "Sometimes." He's a cooper now, has 5 children of his own. Do they know that I caught their father the day he was born? No. And that's all right. She's quiet for a moment. Then she says, I hope they remember me. Someday. They will, you whisper, even if they don't say your name. They'll remember how safe they felt, how warm the room was, how you held them before anyone else did. That's the mark you leave. That evening, she sets out alone again, called to a neighboring village. You stay home wrapping bundles of thyme and rose hips, preparing for colds and coughs and fevers yet to come. You set aside a few things she forgot: a tiny jar of sage oil, a spare spool of thread, a clean square of linen. You place them in her bag, careful not to disturb the rest. You find a scrap of parchment and write a note. It says, if the birth is hard, sing, even if your voice shakes. The women before you will hear it. So will the child. You tuck it between the rags where she'll find it one day, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this year, but at a moment when she needs to feel less alone. And then you sit. You sit in the chair where your mother once sat, where her mother might have sat before her, where you have stitched and stirred and wept and rejoiced more times than you can count. Your hands fold into your lap. Your eyes watch the fire crackle low. You don't need to say it aloud, but you do anyway. I was a midwife. The words fill the room like a blessing. Not past tense, not regret, just truth. And outside, snow begins to fall in earnest, soft and endless, blanketing the village where dozens of children are asleep in the arms of mothers you helped shape into themselves. You smile and let the stillness take you. So now, here we are at the end of your long journey through the hands and heart of a medieval midwife. You've been there through the pain and the blood, through the screams that echoed in low stone walls, through the silence that followed when things didn't go as they should have, and through the joy when they did. You've walked barefoot through cold fields crouched in flickering firelight, whispered prayers in languages no one wrote down. You've felt the weight of generations of knowledge passed hand to hand of babies, lifted from darkness into breath of women stitched and soothed and strengthened by another woman's hands. You've seen what it meant to live in a world without safety nets or doctors, where healing was a quiet act of rebellion and birth was both miracle and battlefield. And now as you lie here in your own bed in your own time, listening to the soft hum of your fan or the silence of the night, you can let all of that fall away. The ache of the births, the press of the cold floor, the sting of nettle on your palms. It can all dissolve. What's left is this. You've witnessed something sacred, something forgotten by most, but not by you. So take a slow breath in and let it go. Know that you are safe now, wrapped in the same care that midwives have given for centuries, not with potions or knives, but with presence. Let your muscles soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let your eyelids grow heavy. And if you dream, may it be of warm fires of tiny cries that mean life of hands reaching across time to hold yours.